Yeah, if you're getting parts to my tripod, not really smart. Imagine what it was like, life on board a sailing ship for a convict. Finally, we've found it. G'day friends, it's Paul here again from Tasmania. It's a little bit cool today. It's pretty much in the middle of winter and there's a bit of rain forecast. I thought I'd get outside and enjoy the sun a little bit more, and I'm in Taroona, which is a suburb of Hobart, which is our capital city, and I'm in the search of something pretty special today. It's Tasmania's oldest recorded grave. It's of a sailor who was buried. The story is that a landing party brought a dead sailor ashore from a ship close to 200 years ago now. I'll find out the exact date when I get down to have a look at it. Of course, back then Hobart was only settled for about 6 years. It was a convict colony, and back then, of course, we had a really strong indigenous population, which, as we all know, and it's a story reflected around the world, that things have changed so much, and unfortunately that's not the case anymore. But things were very much different back then, and there was no development, there was nothing, as you see around here. It's very well built up. So the grave is on the foreshore of our Derwent River, which pretty much intersects or goes through the centre of our capital city Hobart here, and pretty much at the mouth of the river. So I'm just going to have a bit of a look. I've forgotten the camera adapter for my tripod, so I'm having to do this by hand. So it's just the way it is, me being new to this and everything. So I thought you might be interested in just having a look. I've seen it before many years ago, so I thought while I'm down there I'll just make a cup of tea at some stage and go for a bit of a look and see what we can find. Okay. Yeah, forgetting my parts to my tripod is yeah, if forgetting parts to my tripod's not really smart, but a bit of an impromptu trip today. Of course, I haven't got my gimbal or anything, a bit unprepared. It doesn't matter, it's still just a good day to get outdoors and have a look around before it rains. There's supposed to be quite a lot of rain coming here soon. Nice to see some wildlife, quite a lot of wattle birds around here in Taroona. Very distinctive bird with a really distinctive sound, lots of them around here. Great to see. Just walking down the steps of the car park at Taroona, I'm visualising this bay. A couple of hundred years ago there were literally convict ships sailing up and down this river. There were whaling ships. Hobart was, I believe, Tasmania, the southern hemisphere capital whaling location. Out from Hobart, we've even got a young guy, 21 I think he was, who is buried in St David's Park in the middle of Hobart. It's an old cemetery. A lot of people buried there. They've converted into a park. They used to have the headstones standing around there outside. Anyway, there's a grave in the middle of it. This guy says, the epitaph said he was killed from the blow of a whale, killed by the blow of a whale. Back then, a couple of hundred years ago, when Tasmania was around the time it was first settled, what a vastly different place it must have been. With a thriving indigenous culture, which sadly and tragically has been pretty much all lost. And pristine environment, although it's still okay, but it just would have been nice to spend 5 minutes back then and just experience the solitude, and just to experience these amazing sailing vessels, these old sailing ships that used to come up and down here, bringing convicts from all parts of the world, from England, Ireland, Mauritius and other places. These convicts who in many cases have just committed petty crimes and have been torn away from their families forever, never to return. There was a double-edged sword in that. The convicts came here, they must have felt really hopeless, because Tasmania, or Van Diemen's Land as it was known back then, was known as a hell on earth, an inescapable island separated by water from the Australian mainland. A lot of those convicts ended up as very, very skilled people, stonemasons, agriculturalists, farmers, people that really benefited the community. They'd often get granted parcels of land for good behaviour when they finished their term. But there were also that element of convicts called the incorrigibles. Apparently about 20% doesn't matter how much punishment was meted upon them, they just were so resistant to change. And Port Arthur is a shining example of that. An amazing place where so many horrors were executed, and prisoners are executed down there as well. And even the same settlement island, or Sarah Island on the west coast, which is even more isolated, where they sent the worst criminals, the repeat offenders. Hence the story of Pierce the Pieman and the Pieman River, which I'll go into in another video one day. But Tasmania is a beautiful place, and it would have been even more so back then. It would have been stunning. But I really just can't help but look at the mouth of the Derwent here and just imagine, just visualise, just romanticise about these convicts and the hardships and the lives they must have had back then. Finally, we've found it on the northern end of Taroona Beach. This is Bachelor's grave. It's been done up, and it's been, well, people have tried to restore it over the years. And there's not a lot known about this young bloke. I've heard he was around 21. At 1810, a shore party brought his body here. No doubt he was wrapped up in sailcloth or his hammock, as was often the case when somebody died on board a sailing ship. It's not known how he died. There's not a lot of information, but you can just imagine. We know that the ship's called the Venus. We know that his name was Batchelor. We don't know how he died. Just imagine the shore party. This is Tasmania's oldest recorded marked grave. No doubt there'd be a lot of other unrecorded, unmarked graves as well, but this is a national trust area apparently. Just try and glean a little bit more information. It says here, history has recorded very little about James Batchelor. We know him only as a strapping young seaman who died aboard ship on the journey from Calcutta. In some places he is recorded as second officer on the Venus, and in others as first officer. Whatever his rank and whatever the cause of his death, one thing is clear. In this peaceful location, safe above the high water mark, James was buried according to the custom of sailors, wrapped in a hammock or sailcloth. I'm actually walking along the Taroona Coastal Discovery Trail, just along from Bachelor's grave. So heading northwards from Taroona, from the gravesite. It's actually quite nice. I mean, anywhere around the ocean's nice. It's just lovely. You can't beat that salt air. Just looking for a place to set up the Trangia to make a brew. It's pretty chilly here today. It's about 11 degrees Celsius. But a nice warm cup of tea, that'll fix that problem. So another hobby of mine is, well, it used to be, rock collecting. Sometimes when we look around closely, around the Derwent here, we can find little stones, little bits of jasper or things like that. Yeah. If you look really closely, look for things that stand out, that jump out, that look different than the rest. You can often find that there might be a little bit of old, water-worn brick, or in this case, a bit of petrified wood I've just found. I used to cut this to make some beautiful cabochons, pendants. It's really old. Warms the heart a little bit. That's better. So I hope you like our little walk today, a little excursion. Just a little bit of history about this tiny little aspect of Tasmania, a place that's really dear to my heart. I hope you get the chance to visit us one day and see a bit more about Tasmania for yourself and all that it has to offer, and a little bit of the history that we've had. But I do love it very much. See you next time.